The Final Fantasy IX speedrun has a unique aspect in that its HD remake is a wildly different experience when compared to the original PlayStation version. Final Fantasy X, for example, has very minor differences. The sequence breaks in the PC version have different setups, and the menus are a little slower, but the run itself and the strategies used are fundamentally identical. Final Fantasy IX, however, has a huge amount of differences that impact the fundamental strategies used to speedrun the game. I'll note that in this video I'll be covering the no major skips category for PC. Any percent allows you to skip bosses by menu buffering over story triggers, and it's an interesting run, but not one that I'll cover in this video. One underrated advantage to the PC run is the existence of load remove times. For those unfamiliar, this pauses the speedrun timer during a game's loading screens, meaning that no player gains an advantage purely based on hardware. In the PlayStation run, most runners will use a PlayStation 2 model 90K or 79K, as these consoles have the fastest load times, and over the course of an 8 to 9 hour run, this can really add up. I personally prefer running on original hardware, it just feels better to me, but I understand that hardware advantages can create an expensive barrier of entry. The PC version, however, has a much lower barrier of entry, and it can be argued that it creates a bit more of an even playing field. Another quality of life aspect of the PC run is the existence of autosaves. High-level PlayStation runners will opt to not save their progress at any point, as taking the time to save, dying to a boss, reloading your save, and trying again simply costs too much time. On the PC version, however, the game will automatically save your progress as you enter each screen, and this can even be used to dodge random encounters. Desert Palace is a notorious section of the speedrun, as the player does not have access to Zidane's flee ability, which quickly escapes from battles. Without this, players can often lose a lot more time than usual as they need to rely on the game's unreliable escape mechanic. On PC, however, runners can simply reset the game if they get an encounter here, try to run through the screen again, and potentially avoid the encounter entirely. Speaking of encounters, the HD version has a significantly lower encounter rate. A typical PlayStation run will see runners getting somewhere between 50 and 60 encounters, depending on a mixture of luck and efficient movement. On PC, you'll typically get around 10 to 15. The runner SheriffFalc previously held the world record on a run with 7 encounters, one of which was forced as part of the route, meaning only 6 of these were truly random. While random encounters aren't hugely threatening, as there are very few that can outright kill your run, if any, they can cost you between 30 and 45 seconds roughly on PlayStation, and around 10 to 25 on PC. And without load times included, encounters are just simply less impactful on the PC run. One aspect of PC that is actually slower than the PlayStation version are the text boxes and the menus. Comparing these two scenes here, you can see the text boxes in the PSX version are moving significantly quicker. And this affects menu navigation as well. Comparing these two shows just how much faster the PlayStation menus are. The general feel of the PC menus as well is clunky and a bit awkward to get used to. They almost feel a bit unresponsive at times. Runners who aren't particularly familiar with these quirks can very easily make mistakes within the menus as well, slowing them down even more. We discovered a while ago that using a mouse and keyboard instead of a controller can partially remedy some of these problems. However, this is only really significant in long menus. On the topic of menus, due to their slower nature, the strategies have been adjusted to try and cut out or shorten menus where possible, this mostly being done by the previously mentioned SheriffFalc. The PlayStation strategies will still work, but they just aren't optimal due to these differences. In battle menus as well, this can change the strategies used slightly. For example, in the Plant Brain boss fight at the start of the game, the boss will drop to around 500 HP when Zidane dies, and Blank arrives to help out. Its AI is scripted to always open with Pollen, so long as Zidane is still alive. This spell does no damage, but lowers the party's accuracy significantly. Once this spell is cast, the player will kill Zidane with Vivi's fire spell, then they swap over to Blank, and use him to attack twice before the Plant Brain's next turn, using a trick called ATB waiting, as well as Steiner's Fire Sword to take out the boss, taking 0 damage. On PC, however, due to the menu delay while swapping over to Blank, Plant Brain will always get a second turn. If the player is unlucky, Vivi can die, costing an extra Phoenix down, and up to 8 seconds in battle. So runners need to employ a slightly different strategy for this boss, all because of a slightly slower menu. One way that runners actually benefit from slower menus though, is the Nobles minigame at the start of the run. In this minigame, the player acts out a choreographed fight scene using random quicktime events. The player receives a gil bonus based on how many nobles are impressed, or rather, how well you did in the QTE sequence, usually between 300 and 900 gil. However, a 10,000 gil bonus can be acquired right at the start of the game for impressing all 100 nobles, successfully hitting every QTE within a tight timing window. Interestingly, this gil bonus doesn't exist in the Japanese PSX version. Given the difficulty of getting the Noble's Gil bonus, requiring it on PSX is simply too restricting, so most routes will treat it as an optimization rather than a requirement. In the PC version, however, this timing window is significantly larger. So much so that the current strategies consider it a waste to not impress all 100 nobles and requires the 10,000 Gil bonus. It's simply that much more reliable. The final thing I'll touch on is that, well, the PC version simply hasn't been run for as long. The PlayStation version has well over a decade of history behind it, and the strategies have been carefully refined and optimized throughout the years. TheBroodles currently holds the world record with a time of 8 hours, 34 minutes, and 46 seconds. An incredible run and a great demonstration of how optimized PlayStation is. The PC version, however, was only released in early 2016 on Steam. PeteSwanson currently holds the world record with a time of 7 hours, 28 minutes, and 12 seconds using SheriffFalc's route, a modified version of the PlayStation route with changes to cater to the PC version. Pete's run is also a fantastic display of the current strategies, but given that the PC version just doesn't have that long of a speedrun history behind it, I'm very eager to see how these strategies will evolve and how the route will get faster as time goes on. Thank you to these runners for letting me use their footage to accompany this video. You can find their streams and socials in the video description, as well as my own. If you want to see me dive more in depth about the category that allows skips, or the Japanese PlayStation version, or anything else related to Final Fantasy speedrunning, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.